Welcome to the lesson on long division and dividing with trailing zeros. Today we're going to talk about how to use long division and what happens when there is a zero inside of the quotient, and how to divide easily with the trailing zero. Alright, so if you have 3,542 divided by 7, we know that we're going to have to set this up with long division in order to solve. And when we set up with long division, I like to teach my students that you crisscross. So what is last goes first, and what is first goes last. So the first goes on the inside, the last goes on the outside. I know a lot of times teachers like to tell you the biggest goes on the inside, the smallest goes on the outside, but that doesn't always hold true with long division. So first number goes on the inside, second number goes on the outside. So it's kind of like if you're waiting in line, 3,542 would get to go inside first, 7 would still be waiting outside to go in. So I have 7 on the outside, and then 3,542 on the inside. And what I like to have students do is I like to have them set up boxes. This helps us remember where our numbers go, and it is really important when we're working with numbers to keep our numbers lined up correctly. So I set up my boxes, and since I have 4 numbers, I'm going to set up 4 boxes, one above each number. All right. Now that I'm ready to go, I know that I have to do my steps. I divide, multiply, subtract, and then bring down. So the first thing I have to look at is the first number. I have to look and say, okay, how many times can 7 go into 3? Or how many groups of 7 can I make with 3 pieces? In this case, the answer is 0. So there's my division. Now I multiply. 0 times 7 is 0. Now I get to subtract. 3 minus 0 is 3. Now before I can do anything else, a lot of times students like to say 7 goes into 3 0 times and then bring down the 5. You have to bring down before you can go back up to that division step. So I bring down my 5. Now I can go back to doing division. I'm going to switch colors. So I can do 35 divided by 7 is 5. Now 5 times 7 is 35. There's my multiply. Now I can subtract and I get 0. And now I have to bring down. So again, don't do 7 goes into 0 0 times. You have to bring down that 4 before you can do your next division step. Now in this case, it does work out like with the 0 because 7 goes into 4 0 times. 0 times 7 is 0. Now I can subtract and I get 4. But now I have to remember to bring down the 2 before I do anything else. So now I can do 42 goes into 7 goes into 42 6 times. 6 times 7 is 42. There's my multiply. Now I can subtract and I get 0. Since there are no numbers left to bring down, I don't have to bring down, and I know that I have no remainder. So now I have to look at my numbers. I have 0, 5, 0, 6. We want to represent our number the best way possible. Now every number, whether it's 10 or 1, has zeros in front of it for all the other place values. We just don't draw them. So in this case, we're going to eliminate this 0, but we have to keep this 0. So our answer here is 506. And the way you can check that is you can go back and you can check and say, does 506 times 7 give you 3,542? And if it does, which it did, you know you have the correct answer. All right, so on this one, we can try it again. If you'd like to try it on your own, that's fine, and you can come back and check your work. Otherwise, I will work through you with this one too. Again, 5 goes on the outside, and 44,526 goes on the inside. I'm actually going to go to this page, and I'm going to copy these boxes. So that way I don't have to make a lot of them again. Drag those down here. And then this way I only have to make one more. All right, but that helps me really keep my numbers in line. All right, so another way that we do this, so I'm going to put my divide, multiply, subtract, bring down over here on the side. Another way I like to do this is if 5 can't go into 4, you can put an X there. However, to practice, let's just keep putting zeros there so we don't get confused. So 5 goes into 4 0 times. 5 times 0 is 0. Now I can subtract. Before I can go back to dividing, I have to bring down that next 4. Okay, so now I can divide. 5 goes into 44 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Now I can subtract and I get 4. Now I bring down the 5. Now I can subtract or divide again. 5 goes into 45 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. Now I can subtract and I get 0. And now I have to bring down the next number. Right? And that next number is 2. Now I can do 5 goes into 2 0 times. So I do end up putting a 0 here, but I had to make sure to bring down that 2 first to make sure I had all of my information. 5 times 0 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2, so I subtracted. Now I need to bring down my 6. And now I can divide again. 5 goes into 26 5 times. Multiply, 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract, and I get 1. There's nothing left to bring down, and since we're not dividing and getting into decimals, I know that I have a remainder of 1. So again, this 0 in the front we don't need, but I do need the 8, the 9, the 0 in the middle, and the 5. So my answer is 8,905 with a remainder of 1. Okay, and to check that, again, you can do the multiplication, but you're not going to get an exact answer because you have the remainder. So I can do 5 times 8,905. And I get 4,525 plus my 1 remainder, and I get 44,526. So I know my answer is correct. All right, so that's division with difficult numbers. Here we have division with trailing zeros, so we have zeros at the end. And in this case, yeah, sometimes we think we need to set up long division, but we really don't. If you look at the front numbers, so in this case, I have 48 and 8. Well, 48 is a multiple of 8, so I know I can do 48 divided by 8, and that's going to give me 6. And because I have these 2 zeros at the end, I know my answer has to be 600. So then I can go back and double check and do 600 times 8. I know that's 48, and I know these 2 zeros get added to the end, so I know it's correct. But now here, well, again, I have the 48 and the 8, so those are compatible. We can just divide those two numbers, and again, I get 6. But now here, I have a 0 in my divisor, so I also have to cross out this other 0 in my dividend. Because of that, I only have 1 0 left, so my answer isn't 600 this time. My answer is actually 60. And then here again, ignore the zeros. You have 48 and 8. Now I can't ignore the zeros if I have a number back here, but because it's all zeros at the end, I can ignore that number. Or I can't ignore those zeros. So 48 divided by 8 is 6. Each of the zeros cancels out another 0, so it has to be 2 zeros canceling out 2 zeros over here. they don't cancel each other out on this side. It has to be however many are on this side of the division side and how many are on this side of the division side can cancel each other out. So in this case, my answer actually is 6. And you'll notice that my number of zeros went down as my number of zeros on this side of the division symbol went up. So I'd like you to take just a quick second and practice these. Okay. And like I said before, put your numbers in a box. It might make it a little bit easier for you to recognize the compatible numbers. And then when you come back, we can check over your answers. All right, so here I have 63 and 9. I know those are compatible, so I do 63 divided by 9 is 7. I have 1 0 and 1 0. I got 70 as my answer. 56 and 8 are compatible, so this is really where knowing your multiplication tables comes in handy. And that gives you 7. Again, 1 and 1, so 70 again. Now here I have a number in the tens place, but that's okay because it's 12 and this is a 48, and those two numbers are compatible. So here I can do 48 divided by 12 gives me 4. So I know the first number has to be a 4, but this 0 cancels out this 0, so my answer would be 40.